right, that's a new one. Happy with that. Hello and welcome to Molby on the Spot. I'm Trev Downey. I'm joined, of course, by Mr. Jan Molby to look back at the week that was for Liverpool. And in the case of ourselves today, it's actually 2 weeks. So as ever, good evening, Jan.
Yeah, good evening, Trevor. I hope you're well.
I'm well, my friend, and lots to ask you about. I'm going to throw you under the bus immediately by asking you about a thing I saw you do where it's this really popular thing at the moment where they put someone on the spot and they say X or Y, X or Y. You probably guessed this was coming up. And I was fascinated by the fact that the first one they threw at you was an old colleague versus Ryan Gravenberch, Samuel Lee versus Ryan Gravenberch. And I was kind of wondering, did they catch you on the hop there? Was it recency bias, or did you genuinely think that? It was because I know I've done one of them, and it's trying to think on the spot. I actually made a few terrible calls myself, but I was just curious to know, were you happy with all the choices on that one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, generally they are the bloody nightmare, aren't they?
They are.
Because you just don't know what's coming next. And, you know, some of them are pretty straightforward. We're talking about this little game called Winner Stays On, isn't it? And it was Liverpool midfield players, wasn't it? And it was a thing that the guy who filmed it, you know, he just went, "Can we just do this for 2 minutes?" I'm like, "What is it?" But they don't like to tell you, do they? Because it is one of those things, isn't it? Deal with it now. And then obviously we got towards the end, isn't it, where Graham Souness, the player, got into what I now know is the final three, isn't it? And then he had to run into Steven Gerrard, and it's a close one. It's a close one, isn't it? But I just thought maybe Gerrard, and then of course Gerrard in the big final against me, and I'm not about to reveal who might have won that one.
Let's just say, I gotta say, I was surprised at the modesty, sir. The modesty was tremendous. Fair play to you.
It's hard, Trevor. Please, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard, isn't it? You know, Jan Molby or Steven Gerrard, and I go Jan Molby. Can you imagine the abuse I get from people under the age of 25?
I can just also imagine Steven Gerrard two-footing you for it, to be honest. But we'll just move along. Like you say, they're tricky, those ones. They really are. They kind of really put you on the spot. We have so much to get through, man. And I wanted to start with your thoughts on what's happened since we last spoke. And of course, it was very much a mixed bag because we were on the back of a few good things, and we weren't talking about turned corners, but we were hopeful about some things, and also wary that the first team that goes and plays in a way that they know can exploit our weaknesses will get a result. And of course, we had that really disappointing game where we cough up the lead that we had late against City, and it was pretty appalling stuff in terms of how people were feeling afterwards. Now, I'm building up to it because I found myself in a very peculiar scenario as a fan, and I know you'll be able to relate to it as in terms of the period of time that you and I have worked together. We've talked about it a few times this season, and the position I found myself in was I'm looking at a game against Sunderland, a midweek game against Sunderland, and I'm thinking, don't really fancy this. I'm not optimistic about this. This lot have the opportunity to inflict another defeat on us, and that's where I was going into it. In a minute, we'll talk about the lineup, which complicated things further. But was I alone there, or were you wary also heading into that one on the back of the City game?
I have to say I wasn't overly concerned, but plenty of people were. I was at the game, and believe me, I refuse to believe that the TV pictures would have given you an idea of the conditions, Trevor. It was horrendous. The wind, the rain, it was cold. And then instantly, and I think this is a fair point, you go in conditions like that, it always tends to suit the home team a bit more, isn't it? Because you've got the fans behind you. But I was talking to all the people in the media house I always talk to, and they go, and I go, yeah, but have a look at the teams, stick them up man for man, with a different level, even when we're not playing as we would like to play, isn't it? But you still have to do it. So what happened? And I didn't think this would happen because I thought Sunderland would find a way of putting us under pressure using the conditions, with loads of long balls, with loads of crosses, just putting us under pressure. But they never really managed to do that. They had a couple of long throw-ins. They didn't have many corners in the game off the top of my head. They had a couple of long throw-ins that weren't really dangerous. Van Dijk cleared them quite easy. And so that sort of momentum never really built up, did it? And the stadium, and I just think basically people were freezing. People were just sitting there freezing. And that had a massive influence on the atmosphere. And the stadium never really got going till we kind of scored. And then all of a sudden they're thinking, we need to protect our unbeaten home run, I mean, fair due to Sunderland for getting 12 games unbeaten at home when you consider that Arsenal, City and Aston Villa have all visited Newcastle and been there. So fair dues for that. But I just thought that if we get anywhere near what we're capable of, and then without their most influential outfield player, Granit Xhaka, I thought we could do the job. Having said all of that, we kind of made hard work of it, didn't we?
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is the getting a bit near to what we're capable of. I think it's a rationale that we've all sort of laid out, looking at opposition coming up, going, well, man for man, and it's the thing we've said as long as we've been doing shows together. When we're looking ahead to fixtures, if we show up man for man, yeah, you'd be confident almost against anybody. But that confidence has been severely misplaced this season. For a number of factors. And we went into the game with a number of issues swirling around, especially in the right back situation. Since we last spoke, there was the reported fallout with Curtis Jones, which seems to have manifested itself in terms of his appearances, for sure. And the manager being very straightforward and honest about the fact that he likes to play a set team, and he has said as much in press conferences. And that set team appears to include Florian Wirtz in midfield. Another thing I think I don't think it's overly controversial to say that last night on Raw, I spoke about all the people from all walks of life, from people with as much insight as yourself to people who I meet in a shop who talk to me about Liverpool all the time because I'm the Liverpool guy. They all believe that Cody Gakpo should not be in that team and that Florian Wirtz should be accommodated, but in that position. This is not difficult. They all believe that Liverpool need three robust midfielders, especially when the two that they're playing are not at the top of their game. These are not difficult calls. And the whole situation was complicated a bit further by the right back discussion, Jan, which went on during the week as well, about why doesn't Calvin Ramsey get a chance, etc., etc. So these things were all complicating the issue. What did you think of the lineup, going with Endo at right back, going with that lineup, which has really only two functional midfielders in terms of fellas who are going to be able to do any defensive work whatsoever? What's your take on that? Because he seems quite insistent on it.
Yeah, I mean, if we start with the right back, we've obviously developed a phobia about playing Joe Gomez. I know he's only just come back from injury or whatever, but when you think of a game like that, when needs must, when we develop a phobia, we just don't play Joe Gomez, do we? And we always find an excuse for not playing Joe Gomez. We go, well, he's our only cover for centre half. And I'm thinking, yeah, but in a game like this, we could do with Joe Gomez as a right back. Curtis Jones, I never felt was going to play right back because I felt he was going to be needed in centre midfield as a substitute. The longer the game would go, we would need a centre midfield player to be able to come on and replace one of our centre midfield players. So I never thought he was going to have the role. The nearer we got to kickoff and the more it rained, I generally thought he's going to go with both left backs. He's going to play Robbo right back and Curtis left back. And that's what we're going to do. So when it was Endo, it was a bit of a surprise. I kind of get the Endo experience international. There will be a lot of defending to do. That's the reason you can't play Curtis Jones as a full back in a difficult away game. At home, he can almost be like a playmaker, can't he, as a right back? But in an away game, I think he's just waiting on the listen, there'll be some defending to do. So let's put somebody at right back who actually enjoyed defending. So it was Endo, and I thought Endo did okay. In terms of the midfield, it's difficult with Gakpo, isn't it, Trevor? And I guess that's where a lot of the discussions start. Should Gakpo be in or out? And if he's out, then obviously it would mean that Florian Wirtz would play there, and then there would be somebody else to play in the middle. So Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but I have to say, Cody didn't have a great night again. Did okay in the first half. We were better in the first half than we were in the second half, and we were well on top in the first half. But in the second half, we had a couple of lads who kind of disappeared out of the game. The longer the game went, the less we saw of them, isn't it? So I think it's difficult. Having said all of that, Trevor, though, Florian Wirtz does some things, doesn't he? Every now and again, he just does little bits, doesn't he, where you go. It just, this thing about making football look easy. I'm not talking about Florian Wirtz being outstanding for 90 minutes, and I don't think he's at the level yet, but every now and again he does things where I'm thinking a lot of footballers enjoy having good games. I'm having a good game, but even sometimes when footballers are having a great game, it can be hard work. And I'm looking at Florian Wirtz in certain instances, and I'm thinking, it's too easy for you. Certain things are too easy for him. And there's not many footballers who can say that. Many footballers can come up and say, well, I had a great game there today, but it was still hard work. But Florian Wirtz is like, he just makes the games look so easy, doesn't he, Trevor? And after the game, I did an interview, and I actually handed the microphone to Florian Wirtz because he was the next one in line to get an interview. And I'm absolutely convinced he looked as if, I've seen this guy before, but I thought I'd leave it. So I'll give Florian Wirtz a little bit more time to do his homework before we meet again.
I love that. I love that. We have to get to the bottom of this. That's interesting. We'll have to get someone to put a question to him. It was interesting. You were talking about. It's a difficult situation with Cody Gakpo. I suppose the immediate thing you would fire back is it?
Yeah, he said, yeah, no.
Because at this stage, what is it that the kid offers that anyone could see apart from Arne Slot? And it's not about singling a guy out. It's just about, well, how we got. Would you think it would be possible to platform Florian Wirtz better in a situation where we do take Gakpo out of the team and we play a situation where we have Florian as a 10 behind two forwards? So would that also solve another issue which was screaming at us from the hilltops for the last couple of games, which is that Mo Salah, while he still will have that innate finishing ability, cannot, it appears, beat a man like he once did. And you've spoken in the past about how this can happen quite dramatically quickly to a footballer, where certain aspects of the game will become just not something they're capable of doing anymore. Nobody wants to write the man off. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, what about accommodating him more central as a part of a two with Hugo, with Florian Wirtz buzzing about and doing number 10 things? Again, it's just a suggestion, but are we wasting our time, do you think, Jan, inventing these ways of changing the lineup? Because it does seem that one thing I will say, the more embattled he becomes, the more stubborn it appears Arne is getting. He is obviously been picked up on certain things he's saying about footballers in his press conference, about his own footballers, and he just continues to do it. He kind of made comments about Konate last night, and then of course put it in context immediately, but those comments hang out there. They're the ones that are picked out and put out as headlines, and he just seems to keep doing it. He does seem to be quite a stubborn type of chap.
There's no doubt he's stubborn, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, Trevor, because sometimes you have to try and go with what you believe. I do think to a certain extent that we're wasting our time in terms of hoping that he might change the formation. But it would actually make some sense, because the way we're playing at the moment, we're getting almost nothing from the flanks. Gakpo, we've discussed, Salah, and this can't be nice as a footballer. When you rely on your ability to run away from people or to dribble past people, and all of a sudden you can't do that anymore, it becomes really difficult, doesn't it? I mean, I think most footballers, to an extent, experience that. Oh, it's coming towards the end, isn't it? But for some, it's not so evident in the way that they play, but it's very evident in the way that Mo play. So I can see the thinking of wanting to put Mo closer to our most two potent attacking players at the moment, with Zeki and Florian Wirtz. and being involved in what they set up, and hope that he can get a bit of space, a bit more central, because they do create a little bit of space, isn't it? But it's amazing, isn't it, Trevor, that as few people we have available, there's still plenty of discussion, isn't it, about how should we actually play and what should the starting 11 actually be? Because every time when I got to the Stadium of Light last night, and you go, what's the lineup? And you go, well, there's only one lineup, isn't it? We haven't got anyone else. But when you actually put a bit of thought into it, we do have options within that, don't we? And it'll be exactly the same for the game on Saturday against Brighton. We won't have many available. Obviously, now Endo is another one who won't be available. But still within that, there's still a few things we can do with that lineup, isn't there?
I don't want to annoy you by trotting out the Calvin Ramsey chat that went round and round and round, and people took the usual, it's 2026, you have to take an entrenched position, and you have to be on a team, and you have to be absolutely certain that anyone who's not saying what you're saying is an idiot. Thankfully, we don't do that on this show, and you're a man who, even despite the fact that you have all the experience you have, is open to other people's opinions and ideas as well. So I just don't know that there's anything to be gained by us going through that, and whether it's worth playing him or not, or whether Slot kind of threw him under the bus with his comments or not. I don't know that it matters, because at the end of the day, like you said, that stubbornness is there with him. It's there for good and bad, and he will choose who he's going to choose. And like you also said, I'm not sure how much worthwhile it is for us to debate the merits of different systems with this guy. I will ask you this. The ongoing debate around Slot himself hasn't in any way eased. And after the City defeat, it was right back up. And maybe people would say, look, it's Man City. You can never make a decision on anyone's future based on a result against Man City. And I think that's a fair observation. They can always beat you on any day. You could point to elements of misfortune, but in the Man City game, we did something which we've done all season, which is we sat back once we had gotten a goal and allowed the opposition to attack us, and we're not in a position to do that. It just so happens that last night we also did the same thing. And because Virgil and Ibu Konate in particular were in such outstanding form, I mean, how many 1v1 blocks did Ibu put in against Brobby? We got away with it last night because it was defensively excellent. I don't know. I want to ask you this one. When you talked about the standard of play last night, and it was quite good, and we have to take the wins where we get them, and I mean all around the field. I was saying on Raw last night, and I thought, oh, geez, Trev, you're being cynical, but do you think that the pace that we played at, this lovely high-tempo football that we saw last night that we've been craving, was actually as a result of the conditions? Because you had mentioned the pitch and how hard it was, and it was kind of a result of the conditions and the necessity to play like that, plus the fact that for the first time in a long time, our control and passing were good across the team as well. Was it just a nice, perfect storm? Or am I being too pessimistic about that?
No, because having been in dressing rooms and having played in conditions like that, luckily not too often, but I have experiences, and the kind of team talk revolves around that. So the players go out to warm up, then they come back in and you go, listen, you've had an experience of what it's going to be like, so this is how we like you to play. So that can be, let's go long, let's not, or let's speed up the passing, yeah? Let's speed up the passing, get the ball moving, isn't it? Because the one thing they want to do is what I said before, isn't it? Is create some atmosphere in the stadium because of the conditions. And we never allowed that because we moved the ball very, very quick. We managed to move the ball through them as well, really well. So, Trevor, I say this after every win, that there's nothing in the previous win that convinces me. Yeah. And it's the same last night. And there was nothing wrong with the performance last night, Trevor. And as soon as I got there, I went, this is about one thing. This is only about winning, yeah? Let's just win this game, get on the bus, and get back home, isn't it? But I have to say that, having said all of that, and liking the fast passing and whatever, there is nothing that convinced me in that performance that we'll win the next 5 or 6 games. And that's what everybody's talking about, isn't it? That's what people are talking about now in this race for top 5 with Chelsea and Manchester United. Everybody's talking about we need to win 5 or 6 games. And I'm going, well, I don't see evidence of that. I generally still don't. I think somewhere in our players and in our squad, there's enough ability to be able to do that. But they haven't been able to show me that, wow, this is the moment. And that even goes for last night. So yet again, Trevor, you can call me whatever you want to call me. I put the Sunderland performance down as a one-off that suited the night, suited the challenge, and suited the opposition. On Saturday, it'll be totally different, and then it'll be back to the Premier League and the Champions League, and I'll be totally different again. And when you're in the mood, you just deal with them all, Trevor, don't you? But I still think that the majority of games we're going to be playing from now to the end of the season is going to be a challenge. And every one of them you're going to be able to look at as a one-off game. There might not necessarily be any continuity from game to game. We're just going to go from one to another and just hope that we're going to get the results that we need, because we need them. Because whatever people think of Chelsea and Manchester United, they are two clubs banging form. They're banging form, both of them. And that's our biggest challenge, isn't it?
It is. And I do want to go through that with you in some detail in a few minutes. And hopefully our listeners can follow along with us, or they can watch it on the watch through later if they haven't caught us live. But before we do, just a couple of things that you mentioned there that I want to talk to you about. First one was about just the most recent thing, the fact that there's no evidence of something that you can hang on to say next time out, we can rely on that. There's two guys who work for our channel here, Dave Hendrick and Carl Matchett, and they're very good at the way they break down the game, and they've spoken repeatedly about how there's no discernible, repeatable actions. And I understand that, the game can get a little bit too scientific at times, and whereas I'm open to all of it, I think sometimes you have to embrace some of the more old-fashioned, hard to define things. But I think that's a really, really good observation, that there are no repeatable patterns of play. And that's not new news, is it, Jan? I mean, when you guys were playing small-sided ball retention games at Liverpool as training, that's what you're fucking practicing, right? Repeatable patterns of play. This is how I link with this guy. I know he's going to be there. That type of stuff, right?
That's all you do, Trevor.
Yeah.
And that's as much as, some people thought, is this really enough? Is this enough for what, certainly for a long time, was the best team in England, period of being the best team in Europe, in the world? Is this enough? I think it is. I always thought that when I joined Liverpool, I was amazed at the training, or sometimes the lack of training, when I consider all the things that we did at other clubs I was at season. But it pretty quick made a lot of sense to me, though, isn't it? It's a bit like a golfer. You mentioned before, you didn't say training, you said practice. It's a bit like a golfer, A golfer practices, don't he? Do the same thing over and over again, And really, as footballers, that's all we need to do, isn't it? We need to practice, because we do the same things again and again and again, which is win the ball, stop the opposition, make a pass, take a shot, or whatever, isn't it? There isn't that many different aspects that you have to be good at. There's only 4 or 5 things you need to be able to do in a game, isn't it? So I like to start what you brought up before, isn't it? And I think it's kind of almost the same thing we see with our eyes, isn't it? But we're still waiting, Trevor. We're still waiting for that big moment, aren't we? Where we go, wow, this looks right, isn't it? Because I'm thinking that if we're anywhere near what we've been over the last few years, we win 2 or 3-0 last night. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention, because we did talk about it, and I know you'll have some opinion from personal nature. Actually, even if we take the last show we did together, or the one before that, where we looked at 2 of your goals, one from, I think it was 85, and then one from later on as a player manager. And it's in the context of the Mo Salah conversation and what you said there, that some players, they're nothing without their pace. And whereas it's probably highly unlikely that in whatever that was, 90 would have been 4, the free kick goal we saw. What was that?
96.
Yeah. Whereas it would have been highly unlikely that in 96 you'd have probably pulled off the United goal. You're capable of pulling off the free kick goal, and you're capable of doing the job in defence and centre half and in midfield and picking a pass. And we know that Salah has aspects to his game which are just innate. It's skill. It's his finishing ability. His control is outrageous. That's why I think he's not a guy who will live or die by that lack of pace. Of course, being a man was so much a part of the Salah that we've watched for years. There's no reason why he can't evolve, Jan, and be a huge cog in the wheel for a period of time to come.
Yeah. I mean, the lucky thing for me, Trevor, was that I was player manager, so I could actually design a way to suit it. And this might sound big-headed for some people, but I could actually design a way of playing that suited what was our best player, yeah. So I played a 4-3-3 system with 3 centre midfield players, and everybody's playing 4-4-2 nowadays, aren't they? And people go, "What we're doing?" I said, "Don't worry about it. This is what we're going to do, and it will work." And the other 2 midfield players, all I'm asking them to do is not show for the ball, run away, so the opposition run away, and give me a bit of time to do what I do. And that's how it worked. Mo is not as lucky as that, i.e., he's not the manager. And also, I almost feel that Arne Slot is now sensing that attack is moving elsewhere, isn't it? It's moving towards Hugo Ekitike, with his pace and with Florian Wirtz and his vision, isn't it? So it can be difficult for Mo to try and find, because I still see, for a lot of the games he plays, isolated, isn't he? He's isolated out there on the right. He hardly ever gets the ball before the opposition are set in their low block. We don't really play with overlap and attacking fullbacks anymore. So it is almost like give Mo the ball and ask him to do what he could do 5 years ago, but he can't do that anymore. And we might not have been quick enough to maybe alter the way that we attack slightly.
If that stubbornness continues in terms of how we utilize Mo Salah, this is going to be sounding very controversial, but we would be better off with Jeremy Frimpong standing there in that position, because he can, with his ridiculous burst of pace, get past the fella again and again. And if that's all we're asking of our winger, then, this is why I find the stubbornness tactically quite hard to get my head around, or the unwillingness to try to utilize the assets to their best. I mean, if I can see it, surely Arne Slot can see that he's not best suited out there anymore, and that he can't beat a man the way he once did. So, look, it's going to be an interesting one to watch evolve. Let's get on to the next part of our chat, which I want to talk about Liverpool's fixtures. And in order to do that, let's pop them up here on the screen so that people can watch along and have a look. Just share the screen here. Men's teams match schedule. That's us. Okay, right. So, taking into account what we have to come, and we'll just walk our way through these ones slowly. Obviously, the FA Cup is its own thing, as are the Premier League, as are the Champions League games. But just for now, Jan, let's just take a look at this. The run that we have. We start off on February the 22nd away at Forest, and we follow that up on the next Saturday at home to West Ham. 2 games which, in theory, with the form the 2 clubs are in and the disarray this particular club is in, should be theoretically winnable. But again, we say that now. Then it's Wolves. Again, Liverpool should win, even if it is away. Then we have on the 15th of March, we're at home to Spurs, who are having a bit of a stinker for themselves, and managerial upsets as well. And then it's Brighton at Brighton, never an easy match, and Fulham at home in April on the 11th. Everton away on April the 18th. And the last game in April is at home to Crystal Palace. Now, it's in May, Jan, that it gets very tasty. We have United at United. We have freaking Chelsea at home. We have Villa at Villa. And we finish with what's not an easy game at all, because it all depends on what's in it for them, which is Brentford at Anfield. And I'm thinking, as we're looking through this, would it be fair to say that if we're going to get this elusive Champions League place, and just for the record, in case people are wondering what the league table looks like, we should just pop that up real quick so everyone can get a feel for that as well, and what way things are lying. Men's league table, there we go. So Is that clear enough for you, Jan? You can see it clearly, can you?
I certainly can.
Excellent. So we've got Arsenal flying away there at the top of 56 points. It's a sickening thing to watch how far off that we are on 42, especially when you think that they have a game in hand. What a falling off from grace there has been. But let's focus on the positive, because Chelsea and United both dropped points at the weekend in games they were fancied to win, and it allowed us to sneak back up from being very despondent going into this Sunderland game to being now currently 2 points off where Chelsea are and 3 off United, and we're all on the same games played. Now, just before we look at Chelsea's fixtures and United's fixtures, because that's kind of the purpose of this, what do you make of that run for Liverpool? Would it be right to say, Jan, that if we're going to do the business and stay in touch, it's going to be very, very important that the run of games from here until May has very much got as many of those points as we can accrue, because you could see those big games at the end. Maybe they'd be big games the lads get up for, but they are crunch fixtures. I mean, is it right to say, do you think, that we really need to start racking up some points now?
Well, we got 12 games to go, so 36 points to play for. We're going to need a lot of points, I think.
Yes.
Because if you look at the form there, isn't it, in that top half, the only two clubs who won 4 is Manchester United and Chelsea. So they're in good form, aren't they? Forest away, under Sean Dyche, you knew exactly what it was going to be like. He's gone now, so they'll get a manager bounce. And I do think that they are probably the biggest underachievers in the bottom half of the table, Nottingham Forest, compared to what they did last year. I still think they've got some really good players. So I think that could be a really tricky game. Vitor Pereira, who's agreed to go in, I think he's a really good manager. I know people go, he didn't do very well at Wolves at the start of the season. He wasn't left with anything. But I think he's a good manager. I think he'll get him going. And there'll be life. That's the big thing, Trevor. There'll be life. Because I've never ever been, maybe it is disrespectful, but I've never ever been to a football stadium where Sean Dyche is the home manager and there's been real life. You know, where you go, I can't wait for this, I'm going to work for this, and we're going to be chasing them down, and we're going to be blah, blah, whatever, yeah. I've never experienced that. I was at West Ham on Tuesday against Manchester United. That is the best atmosphere I've ever experienced at that football ground since they moved into it in 2016. They are in the bottom 3, but all of a sudden they got belief. You know, they got a manager in there to give them belief. So I'm actually delighted that our game against West Ham is at Anfield and not at the London Stadium, because I think that would have been really difficult. Because the fans have just decided we've got one chance here. We've got to get behind the lads, and the atmosphere was incredible. So I actually think that already now that Forest it's a really difficult game now. I think he'll get him going, Pereira, and that's the thing in terms. They've got a bit of time, you know, before we go back into playing Premier League distance. So it becomes a very difficult game. Of the others, you can kind of see us doing really well. Everton is always tricky, but Everton at their new stadium, they haven't found their feet at all, have they? Crystal Palace, former fell off a cliff. Brighton's always a difficult game because they've got good players, but they play without belief. They can't win games. But yeah, May is a beast of a month in it, rather. But on the other hand, you know, I mean, can you imagine as a player, you know, and being in contention with them 4 games to go on? And this is always what I used to love as a player, is, you know, this is the moment. Is now we play, you know, we're not playing Forest or whatever. We're playing some of the best teams in it. Let's go. I can't wait for this. Let's give it a real go. And the fact that the other two, and I'm 100% convinced that Manchester United will still be there come May. Chelsea got some really difficult fixtures. We'll look at it in a moment, isn't it? But yeah, it's fun, Trevor. It's, you know, and that's the way it should be, isn't it? It should be hard. It should be difficult. You know, you shouldn't be handed anything on the plate. Go out there and earn it. And then that Lucas said to drink after the game, that because people no longer drink Poretti or Moretti or Carlsberg, whatever it is. That tastes so much sweeter.
Yeah. 0-0, of course, these days. I wonder, it's interesting to hear you talk there. we've seen Chelsea and United make the managerial switch out because the standard line was, well, we're just not happy with the way things are going at the moment. Best of luck with your future endeavors. In the week, we saw Thomas Frank receive the same treatment with the same sentiment. Now, all of these guys were sacked, but the spin that's put on it's mutual decision. And now we've seen Forest as well. So just briefly on the two lads that they've come up there because they're both part of our upcoming fixture list. Forrest seems to be a bit of a basket case. I mean, that guy is really a law unto himself. I mean, how many managers? I think this is going to be, if Vitor Pereira has been appointed as a full-time manager, I think that's a record now of 4 in a season, which I don't think that's ever happened before. And it's utterly mental, isn't it, when you think about it? I wonder, just the question I have for you there is, if you're Vitor Pereira, and he's had like quite an interesting career, right? People will know him from Wolves, but he's had some success in other leagues, all over the world, actually. Do you think the really top-end managers are looking at Marinakis and going, not a chance. I could be in there for a fortnight and I could look at him the wrong way and I'm out of my ear? Or do you think most managers now go in with their agent and say, you sack us, here's the payoff, make sure it's big, and now let's get on with the job, so that there's a sort of security blanket there? I mean, how would people go about these things these days, do you think, with a club like Forest?
How often do I hear that, Trevor? When people talk about the payoff, yeah, that takes a long time before that compensates for what you've just lost, your job as a football manager. People go, for 24 hours, it's massive big news. Then you look at your bank account and you go, haha. Well, it takes a long time, Trevor, before that makes up for what you've just lost. Because 95% of managers, the moment that they're sacked, still believe that they're the one who can turn it around. Very rarely, and this is genuine, and football managers are highly intelligent, but very rarely would any of them go, I can't do this. Most of them will think, no, I can still do this. So the disappointment when you lose your job. I mean, let's talk about Forrest. He's obviously a loose cannon, the chairman. He thinks the player or the team is better than what it is. No, I'm not sure he does. I think he's disappointed and underachieving. But I can't believe that he couldn't work it out with Europe. This whole thing about now we're playing in Europe, but it's not the Champions League, so you don't get a load of money. You can buy better players than what you got. You can buy some players, but they're not going to be necessarily better than what you've got. So we're going to have a problem because of Europe. And why would that Nottingham Forest and their 4th permanent manager, Edu, the director of football, how he survived? Because if you look at the dross he signed in the summer, Trevor, he should have been having his ear a long, long time ago. I'm telling you. But this guy, Vitor Pereira, he needs 3 or 4 wins, doesn't he? And they'll be okay. And he'll achieve that because he'll get a bit of life. It's like before Sean Dyche doesn't get life in, this boy will get a bit of life in, so the players will enjoy it, and they'll get their 3 or 4 wins. But there will be, as much as there'll never be a shortage of managers who are prepared to take jobs. So the next one is the Tottenham Hotspur job. There'll never be a shortage of managers who believe that I'm the right guy, isn't it? But I do think that there's certain jobs, because you speak to people. I speak to managers out of work, and they go, yeah, but I'd never do that. I'd go in for a sporting challenge, but the Nottingham Forest job is more than a sporting challenge, I think. So I do think that there will be managers going, I can't afford that right now. Because once you've been sacked, this has done absolutely Sean Dyche no favours whatsoever, has it? When you look at his CV and he's gone in there and, a couple of months, 4 months or whatever, isn't it? So there will be managers going, no, I don't need that on my CV right now. And we analyse clubs. I'm always fascinated by the manager, the next manager to be sacked, next manager to be given a job, because you can kind of get to know what clubs are like, isn't it? And some clubs it's just an easier job, and some clubs give you more time than others. You will also know who they are, who allows you a month longer than some of the other clubs. Daniel Levy, had he been at Spurs, Thomas Frank would have been out 3 months ago. But with this new setup, they decided they wanted to do something different. and they wanted to believe in longevity, blah, 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 whatever. And they kept finding reasons and excuses to keep Thomas in the job.
I'm really fascinated by what you said about the effect that it has on the person who's been sacked, and that the monetary reward, the compensation, is just fleeting because it really does get to you. And I'm thinking of people who are in that situation. So obviously Chelsea have got rid of their manager, Maresca, and United have gotten rid of their manager, who was obviously a highly, highly sought after talent in Amorim. And now you've got Thomas Frank, and Xabi Alonso comes into this discussion as well, who was offloaded by Real Madrid. I'm wondering, like, do you think those young guys who you said will absolutely back themselves to still be the person who could get the job done, what do you think that has quite a heavy impact psychologically on them, or is it that they're raring to go to the next opportunity? Like, is someone like Amorim going, give me a go at Spurs, maybe that's the place for me, you know? Or is Alonso going, I'll take any of these big clubs and I back myself? Like, do you think they can't wait to do it, or is there that psychological impact of the sacking?
So Xabi Alonso will not have been damaged by the Real Madrid experience in the eyes of others, because how difficult Real Madrid can be. Real Madrid isn't about your ability as a tactical manager, as a technical manager. It's your ability to play ball with some of the biggest stars in world football. And if they don't like what you say or what you do, you're hung out to dry. That's for sure. There is no doubt in my mind, listening to Ruben Amorim talking, he believes there's not a job in football that he can't do. And coming back to, when you're sacked, Trevor, and if the club you leave, more often than not, when you're sacked, it's because you're not winning enough games. Yeah, that's the reason you're sacked, because you're not winning enough games. So when you're then sacked and the club continue to lose, that makes it even worse. Because you don't, I told you, it wasn't me. It wasn't me, and it's like, but if you leave a job and you start to win, then you go, well, okay, I don't want to be anything to do with that anymore. But if you continue to lose, the frustration just gets worse, because you go, I told him what was needed, and it's going to take time, isn't it? So Ruben Amorim, Maresca, I believe Maresca is another one who believes in his own ability to take any job. But I do, however, think that they've been damaged. Their reputations have been damaged by mainly what's happened after, with Liam Rosenior and Michael Carrick at Manchester United. I think people will, and also, Trevor, these in-depth articles we now get once managers lose jobs, what it was like, what he was like. So back in my day, they left and they go, well, he didn't win enough games. But today, everything is analysed in it. How he dealt with the players, how he dealt with the tactics, blah, blah, blah. Take Thomas Frank down to Spurs, and apparently the players were peeved up because he kept talking about Arsenal. He kept talking about how good Arsenal were, and this is what Arsenal do, and all these things, isn't it? So there is certain things in those very detailed articles that can do you some real damage.
Yeah. Can you imagine if there had been in-depth journalism on that level when Brian Clough was taking leads back in the day? Can you imagine the stuff that would have been said? Remarkable stuff. Let's take a quick look then, like we said we would, at the fixtures for Chelsea and for United, just so we can have a feel for what is possible for us this season. So here we go with Chelsea first. And their matches, of course, will be theoretically, they should be coming up anytime now. You just go ahead, lads, anytime suits you. Wow. Okay. Not cooperating at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that one off, and we'll put United up next. Hopefully we'll have more joy there. Some interesting oh, same issue. I wonder what that is. I had a little bit of that situation last night as well. It can't be signal strength. I'm completely confused. I'm going to just walk you through these, buddy. We won't put them up. I'm just going to walk you through these, and we can talk about it just in terms of maybe you might have, you're probably familiar with them anyway, but let me just walk you through these and we'll talk about it in that way. So first of all, we go to the United fixtures, and it is interesting to have a look at what they have ahead of them. Do you think their run in by comparison and Chelsea's run in by comparison is trickier or more difficult? We know that May is a time where we all face each other. So the time between now and then is what's really sort of going to make the difference for both, for the three clubs. Having had a look at the Man United fixtures, what do you think in terms of what's facing them in that period where we were saying we kind of need to get our noses in front? Like they start, I think it's February, they've got Everton. That's it. Yeah. February, they've got Everton and they're at Everton Monday, the 23rd. They then have Palace as well, and Newcastle and Villa. And that's all before the 15th of March. And I don't think that's necessarily an easy run at all. They then have Bournemouth away in March as well. And their next game in the league is at home to Leeds. Now, there's an old rivalry there. Maybe it means nothing anymore. But then it starts to get interesting. They play Chelsea on the 18th of April. They have Brentford on the 25th of April. They have us on the 2nd of May. And their run in is Sunderland, Forest and Brighton. And you'd back them to do the business in those games. But it seems to be tougher for them at that stage. So that's, again, I'm saying, like, do you think if we get the job done in that early part of the season, Jan, is that where it's going to start looking interesting for us to still be in it? What do you think of that run of fixtures for United?
Well, I think it's difficult. It's a difficult run of fixtures. When you look, you know, Chelsea, they got to play us. They got to play Aston Villa. I'm going to the Newcastle away game, which is a Wednesday night. St James's Park is always difficult. And with those fixtures, it's about 12 to go. What do you need to win? 8 or 9? Are they capable of that? I think it'll take some doing. But I do think that they're relatively lucky with no injuries, really. And the couple are injured are due back. No other games apart from the 12 Premier League games. So there's no cup involvement. There's no European football for them. And they've got players in good form. And compared to Chelsea, they are much more mature as a team. You know, I think Chelsea's biggest problem is going to be that inexperienced. So I would back Manchester United to get enough points to finish the top 5.
Chelsea's run in is interesting as well. They start on the 21st of February. They play Burnley at their place, and they'll be expecting an easy win there, despite Burnley's interesting and very impressive win against Palace there recently. Then they go to Arsenal. Then they go to Villa. Then they have Newcastle at home. Then they go to Everton. And then they have City at home. And then it's the Chelsea United game, although it is at Chelsea. And this is the thing, Jan. Again, the early part of that run for them, this run in, is the tough one. That's where they might come a cropper, and where Liverpool could potentially, if they're going to, stretch out a little bit ahead to complete their run in on the 25th of April. Then they have an away fixture at Brighton. They are at home to Forest in early May. Then they play us, which could be a massive game. They play Tottenham on the 17th of May at Chelsea, and they finish away to Sunderland, who, you know, had not been easy to beat at home until we did so last night. So again, I come back to the simple question. The format and the structure of that run in for them, do you think it's both of them are adding up? When you look at ours and you look at theirs, is it adding up to, if Liverpool can do the business in this next run of 7-8 games to get ourselves even maybe just a nose ahead, then that's when those games you mentioned where the big players come out to play, they're I hate to say it, the cliche, but they're like finals. It could be a very interesting place to be come May.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem they've got, Chelsea, as well as really tough fixtures, it'll also be in a period where they'll still be playing European football. And there's massive pressure, always massive pressure on European games at Stamford Bridge. So while they're having that tough run, they'll be playing their Champions League games as well, which they'll be expected to win. They might get to later on in the season where they're knocked out of Europe, and all of a sudden they have 3 weeks to prepare themselves. But I just think that the top Premier League games are going to be coming when they're going to be playing top Champions League games, and I think that's going to be the one. That's going to be the one that, whereas I backed Man United to do it before, I think there's too many tough fixtures for a young, inexperienced team and a young, inexperienced manager. And I think that'll be their biggest problems in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting the way they've both taken the bounce. I think everybody's sort of waiting for the shoe to drop with Liam Senior, but let's see. Maybe the guy is the real deal. You never know with these situations. But I do think it's just interesting to look at it. I think there's a clear pattern there that if Liverpool can get to May in touch when those big games start happening, then, this season might have some sort of a bit of a redemption arc for us all. There might be some joy left in it, some success. I mean, I think you'll agree with me that even though it was kind of a nothing season, the season where Ali scores that goal and we get the third place sort of, we clinched Champions League football right at the death after being on a horrific run. I mean, at least there was an achievement in that season. It felt like the season was worthwhile. We could, again, rescue something from this. I'm not writing off the European Cup. Of course I'm not. Or the FA Cup for that matter. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in terms of the league form, there is something. It is literally, I hate to say it, it is all to play for Liverpool, if only some consistency can creep in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they're well aware of that. And we hear it. We hear it from the players, and they talk. The players talk as if they get it. They understand the situation. They understand what's required. Now it's just a question of being able to do it. But as I said before, I think we'll just about be okay. But it is, some football fans just want easy fixtures. Easy fixtures where you're guaranteed to win, isn't it? I kind of like the other ones. Really tough fixtures where you play against the best, because when you win, the feeling is just so much more different, isn't it? So yeah, as the season's gone on, we've obviously changed our expectations. So there will be, when we get towards the end, there will be expectations that we go, well, okay, this is what we get from the season. I can live with that. And I think pretty soon, when we get the draw for the Champions League on the 7th of February, we'll also have an idea of where that's going to take us. Then you can look at it and go, I tell you what, with the draw, if we don't get to the semi-final, I'll be pissed off. And if we go into the top 5, I'll be even more unhappy. So then we can. And the FA Cup, we always know is that there'll be certain away games. You will draw certain teams away where you go, this is going to be tough. We draw City away, it's going to be tough, isn't it? But if you get a bit of luck in the FA Cup, who knows? And nothing wrong with Wembley, Trevor. I've told you there's nothing wrong with Wembley.
For sure. And like the natural pro you are, you've segued beautifully into the FA Cup game at the weekend. A lot of people will think that it should be something which offers like you just said, an opportunity for success, a game at Wembley, a potential for trophy, and therefore should be taken immensely seriously. But you also seem to hint earlier on that you think that the manager will shake it up quite a lot for this FA Cup game. I'm curious to know whether you think he'll do that or go for the rhythm and maintain most of that side, given the fact that A, some success would be better than no success this season, and B, it is exactly that kind of rhythm that the side has been lacking.
It is interesting, and I am completely blank in terms of information about what we might do on Saturday against Brighton. But I just thought that, with the fear of maybe at some stage we've been unlucky with injuries, but I think we kind of managed to keep our key players available. I know some people say Alexander Isak, but Alexander Isak isn't yet a key player for Liverpool. So maybe Klopp will make will make some changes just to give one or two people a little bit of rest. There's people you look at, isn't it? And you go, surely Cody Gakpo will do with a rest. Surely McAllister could do with a rest. Surely Ryan Gravenberch could do with a rest. And you kind of go, Virgil could also do with a rest, but we know he's not going to be rested, isn't it? So we'll see. We'll see what he comes up with. He did say after the debacle of last year and the Plymouth FA Cup exit that he would take a lot more serious this year. So we have to assume he's going to go really, really strong, as will Brighton. There's no doubt about that.
So we have the Brighton game. We also have Nottingham Forest coming up hot on the heels of that, as we said earlier on. And it's, what is it, a turnaround? We go from, we have the week. We've got Saturday to Sunday for Liverpool, Brighton, and Liverpool Forest. Maybe we'll leave Forest to talk about until next week. So let's just keep it on the FA Cup for now then. In terms of if you were to get your choice of getting an opportunity to see someone from the squad who's not featuring, is there anyone that's jumping out at you? And the other thing is, again, I know you have your ear to the ground there, and there's so much guff that gets talked about with everything. It doesn't really matter what you're talking about. It could be politics. It could be current affairs of any sort. It doesn't matter. There's always someone out there putting out a completely bullshit version, and you have to sift through all the nonsense. And football has been overtaken by all these accounts that label themselves as news accounts and then say things, and then all of a sudden you have to deny the daft thing that they've said. One such situation which caused a flurry of stuff was the Curtis Jones one, and a lot of people have put 2 and 2 together and gotten 5, or maybe they have gotten 4, and they've deduced that, you know, Curtis not being involved was on the back of a bit of a fallout. In fact, there were words said to that effect. Now, I don't know where you land on this, but I would have thought that when you've got an underperforming Mac, an underperforming Grav, and Florian Wirtz, who is not that guy, Curtis Jones would have been massively important to us over the last couple of games. The idea that he wasn't used, again, speaks to that stubbornness we spoke about before. Do you expect him to be fully welcomed back into the fold for the FA Cup and then maybe back in the rotation in a proper way after that?
It's difficult to say, Trevor, because we saw what happened with Kwanzaa last year. I know that was a different situation, isn't it? But in terms of how hard it was for Kwanzaa to get back in to the manager's thought, you know. So I don't really know. And in terms of what went on and what didn't go on and what was the truth about Ince and what wasn't the truth, even the more reliable guys are kind of a little bit unsure. You know, this is one that Liverpool are trying to keep a lid on. What may or may not happen. But yeah, I totally agree with those, you know, news accounts that just keep churning it out. And more often not, you have to have an opinion on it. I don't have a strong opinion on Curtis Jones either way. It certainly wouldn't have made any sense to let him go in January. Maybe in the future. If I was Curtis Jones, I'd want to play. You know, he's been very, very close to the England squad, been in the England squad on a number of occasions. And so he's got to look at himself and also go, I need to play. There's only one way you find out, isn't it? That's by knocking on the manager's door. You know, man up, knock on the manager's door and go, listen, Arne, what's the score here? You know, and if there's not enough football here, well, we'll find somewhere else and we'll get a decent fee. But we're nowhere near that yet. So I am absolutely 100% convinced that Rio and Gimoa is not ready to start Premier League games yet. But this is an FA Cup game. And I think sometimes when you've been in and around the team for a while, you know, and what he's experiencing at the moment is frustration, isn't it? He's in and around, he's training with the boys, but he's not really being trusted, is he? You know, he's not really. A couple of games he's come on as a late substitute. So I think this will be a nice game to give it a go for him to almost take that next step. And it might be a horrendous experience. You know, it might be a game where he can't put it together. But sometimes I think you need to go through that. I think he's at that level now where you go, he's been here for a while now. Go on. Let's give it 60 or 70 minutes against Brighton. See what you can produce. You know, if he produces a couple of things, it might give him a bit of confidence. If not, we can kind of reevaluate and go, well, okay, we are where we maybe thought we were. You know, but I would think it would be a good idea. Give him a run out. That's what I would do. And also because of Gakpo could do with the rest, maybe even Mo could do with the rest. I'm not struck on Chiesa, what he brings. There's no real future in him. So I think Ngamoa would be the one I wouldn't mind having a little look at him.
Yeah, I wonder will Trainee only feature as well, or the much debated Calvin Ramsey. We'll see. I do actually wonder as you look forward how much variation we can honestly expect. It does feel like it could be one of those where he feels he has to win it. Let's get straight to the part of the show where you tell us how you think it's going to go. So we have Brighton at the weekend. And I think we'll just limit it to that. Like I said, we'll probably hope to have a show between now and the Forest game. So just in terms of this Brighton result, which is upcoming, do you expect Liverpool to get through it? Not an easy challenge, for sure.
No, and it's always a big game for them because of the way that their season are turning out. There isn't a lot left for them. So they'll feel that this is a real opportunity. They're obviously not in good form. They find it really difficult to win games. Although in the midweek at Villa Park, they did quite well. Very even first half. They dominated the second half, but conceded a late winner. So they'll come to Anfield with some belief that they can do it. And they still have players, don't they, Trevor? Mitoma on his day, Deli Welberg, Pascal Gross is back. He might be able to do something on the day. So still got good players. But I think we'll beat them 2-1. Liverpool 2, Brighton 1.
Yeah, we'll
fifth round of the FA Cup.
Oh, we will take that. We will take that. Any progress is good progress in this season. I think we can all agree on that. Jan, as ever, you've been a gent. We have done even more than the usual amount of subjects fired at you there today. Really appreciate you rolling with it. So for another show, cheers to you for that.
Yeah, let's get ready to roll, hey, Trevor. No more excuses.
No more excuses. Yeah, the rolling is about to commence, and Jan and I will be there with you for the rollout to the end of the season. We've talked it through today. It could be great. There's the potential there. Do you believe that? Who knows and who cares? We'll be here to cover it with you anyway. Thanks to Jan as ever. I've been Trev. This is Molby on the spot. Good luck.